just don't feel the same. Just don't feel the same.
Okay, here we are. Coming up comic, folks. Today's guest, Donovan Strong-O'Donnell.
How's it going?
It's going.
Thank you for having me. We're at
Thank you.
the studio.
Yeah.
You're showing me the boxing pictures.
Yes.
Very cool. We didn't really know the location or source, so I can't really follow up with many questions, but they were cool, very intriguing. And I think
Yes. My grandmother's sister.
yeah, pictures of old family member pictures are always kind of intriguing and enigmatic. You're like, huh, they live lives. They didn't
Yeah.
just like
Yes.
have the children that I see at family reunions. Yeah.
Yeah. They
They
tell
weren't
a
just that old
story.
lady at the wheelchair once a year.
Right.
She boxed.
Yes. And my grandfather's table. We talked about that too.
Very cool.
So there's some history in this building. Let's see. Where do we begin, Donovan? We've known each other for what, like 2-3 years now?
Yep, go maybe a little longer. I mean, yeah, you did say you'd ask where'd we meet.
Yeah.
Where do you think we met?
I remember where we met.
I think your story was wrong because you said it on Saturday. Where'd you say?
I thought we met at the Kedzie Inn.
I think we met beforehand at that Polish speakeasy motorcycle club, the Polish Motorcycle Club on Diversey. In the west side.
Oh my
gosh. One of
gosh.
Greg's show. He had a show right before COVID. Was it like a full month or two before COVID? Yeah. And
I
think-
remember that.
And there was like a fire, and I brought like one or two city friends I grew up with. It was an interesting party. It was a weird, yeah, it was a cool motorcycle club type party, Polish motorcycle club.
I remember that night well. It was a chilly night. Yeah, we were all hanging by the fire.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for reminding me of that.
So that's where we met, I think.
That's right.
Yeah, there we go.
You grew up in Chicago, am I right?
Yeah. Yeah, I loved it. Yeah, born and raised. I lived in the country for 4 years, but my dad always lived here, so I always spent at least some time here. But yeah, born and raised here. Lived in Lincoln Park, then Westtown, and then mostly Logan Square. So yeah, Logan Square from like 96 to, and then I grew up and moved out. Yeah.
So what was childhood like for you? What was the family dynamic?
So I had, my dad was always somewhere on the north side, and then my mom we kind of bounced around. She went back to college in Eastern, so we were there for 4 years, and it was like random, very country living. I lived in like the middle of nowhere for 2 years, lived in a town like 20 miles from a town. I lived like in a town of 800 for half a year, and then a town of like 20,000 for like 2 years. But then all we summers were Chicago. And then from 10 on, I was Chicago full time. And it was cool. I mean, you were in the city you were in the city that whole time going out. So you remember what it was like. But I do remember Blues Fest being bigger, Taste of Chicago being bigger and scary. There was like a lot of shootings, like really big shootings.
Yes.
And I think one year I went and there was like a shooting like 100 feet from us. So like it was pretty chaotic. But yeah, so that's what growing up in the city. There's a lot. There's weird things like that, but there wasn't things like block parties, like what's the Wicker Park block party one? The West Fest, like Do Division, like those street festivals.
Yes.
I feel like those are way more commonplace now. So there's things that I like.
They are.
There's a lot more things accommodating to like young single professionals, there's certain things that are missing from 20 years ago for sure.
You mentioned block parties. I loved block parties growing
Yeah,
up.
real block parties. Yeah, I misspoke because I meant like street fest. Because
Yeah.
real block party, and those still exist if you're on a good block.
They do.
And
You got the jumpy.
yeah, exactly. Those were fun. Those are very fun. That was like a great. That's what growing up in Chicago like is you get your block party, you get a few other block parties of close friends and relatives, and you just can dominate at like basketball or like the water balloon toss or whatever. Yeah,
And you got the whole street.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
as a kid, it
And
just
that was-
felt so big.
Yeah, and we never had one on our block, to be honest. I always lived, but I would go to other like cousins' block parties, and I
Yeah.
would love it.
So, did you watch Bozo as a kid?
I did to some extent. Both my parents were on it. They both
Oh,
played games on
wow,
it.
that's huge.
My mom played some. I might get this reversed, but one of the parents played a sweeping game, and then one of them did the classic bucket game. Or was it that if you won the game, you got to play the bucket? Is that how it worked, or did everyone get? Or the bucket was random?
For Bozo buckets, they would pick one boy and one girl.
Oh yeah, so
then
they
there was
went on
an at-home
totally
winner.
different games, totally different days, but they were both selected on their different days. And I've seen this stuff, and I know my mom won like a Star Wars game set, and it had like these cast iron like miniature Star Wars miniatures.
Wow.
Yeah, and I believe she did the sweeping game where she just swept up a bunch of stuff. Like it's because it's like Price is Right for kids was essentially what the premise was, like, and that it's ran by a clown. It's like if Bob Barker was a clown and it's Price is Right for kids, and so yeah, my mom, I think, right, that was a lot of the plot.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so cool.
And
to
then my
have
aunts,
that.
I've had aunts be on the game.
Wow.
Yeah, like they went a lot because I mean,
Do you know somebody or what?
I wonder if my
Jeez.
my grandpa on my mom's side knew someone because he was a cop, and so he would like do a lot of the film sets. That would probably make the most sense, and maybe I was just ignored that. But yeah, no. So I watched it, but I know like the deli we went to or not the bakery we went to growing up was the Rosers on North Avenue in Kedzie, and that was the bakery that served that show, and I always thought that was really cool. And the show was, I was like. The show was on, like, the show was on my whole childhood. I just never, I don't know. I think there was cooler shit on.
I was not on Bozo, but it was a dream. But I like watching the reruns, like at Christmas time, they have them on WGN.
Oh, yeah,
so I still
yeah.
watch
And
those.
I've learned about, and you see all the 60s ones. Like,
Yeah, I
and the
love
50s.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some weird ones where it's just like the sock puppet. And you're like, okay, that's a goose.
What's like one of the first memories you have as a child?
There's this one memory I have where my dad is taking me into my grandma on my mom's side's house, and he's like introducing these aunts and like cousins to me. And I chronologically wonder, it's like, have you ever seen Tree of Life where it's just these snippets of, I think just memory, you have these snippets of memories. So that's a memory I have where he's just introducing me to people. The other memory I have is it was like a birthday. I think it was my second birthday, which is pretty crazy. But I was given like a hockey bag, and it was like a small little tote bag, but it had the San Jose Sharks on it. And I remember, so that would have been for my second birthday. So I remember that.
Wow.
So that or the introductions. I've always wondered like which one came first. And those are the only two memories that, and like I don't have any other, I only have like 5 or 6 memories that I can confirm exist before
That's
I was like
interesting.
5, but like 5 or 6, that's one of them. Yeah, it's pretty, I've always wondered that concept. There's, you sometimes you hear about it, like what's a person's first memory? And that's probably one of mine.
Well, it's interesting that you say you have 2 because I also do,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure which one came first. But when I think of first memory, there's actually 2. But it's also interesting that you say you're talking about toys.
I know
Recently,
how materialistic it is. I
Well,
felt
no,
really
because
gross.
recently I saw some pictures of toys, and I'm telling you, it brought me right back. It just an indescribable like flashback in time.
I could,
seeing those
exactly.
toys.
And those are like, it is gross that a lot of the positive early memories are wrapped around toys.
But there's a wholesomeness
Yeah,
to it
yeah,
still,
yeah.
I think.
And then it's like your great aunt died, or like the other early memories.
Yeah.
But it's like it was either a toy or that, nothing in
Yeah.
between.
Also, I love it in all those old pictures. There's like an ashtray in the background, of course.
A lot of beer can yeah, Asher smoking.
Yep, yep.
There's a super young picture of me playing chess with my godfather who would later teach me chess. And I've played chess my whole life. And he's like drinking a beer, and I think he has a joint lit in the picture. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, this is a
Wow.
guy, he lived on a boat for a few years, party animal kind of guy.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. So,
Wow.
yeah. Yeah, he was a Chicago throwback for sure. Yeah.
So, when did you first discover you were funny?
The pretentious answer, I remember when I was 6 in first grade, we had show and tell, and this kid was making some hack joke about whatever he brought in. I don't even remember, and everyone laughed at his joke, and I didn't laugh. And then a kid turned to me and he said, "You never laugh at anything." Maybe he was just calling me out for being on the spectrum, but I was at the time like, huh. I to this day think it's like, yeah, your shit's not funny. And then the more wholesome answer would be, again, going to an early funeral in my life. I think when we were 4, we were going to Nebraska for a funeral, and I was just doing knock knock jokes the whole time.
So, take me to your first open mic. When's the first time you decide to do comedy? How do you get to that point?
First time I did comedy was at my senior year talent show to a full auditorium of like 600 people. And it went well. I had auditioned for it. So the first time I did it was auditioning for teachers. And then I switched a couple of jokes and made them a little more raunchy. And then I did an open mic when I was 18, like 2 months later. I told all the same jokes. It was at Tunes on Southport. And then the host said, "You can't tell jokes about being in high school in a bar." And then I did it like one more time at there's these lofts at like Lincoln and Wrightwood or Wellington. They're actually pretty cool. I haven't been to them since COVID, but they would randomly have comedy, and they had an open mic back then. And so that same freshman year of college, I did an open mic there. So I did 2 open mics when I was 18, and then I didn't do it again until I moved back home to Chicago, 2016, end of 2016. I started taking classes at Second City in improv so that I could meet people to do open mics with. And then, yeah, 3 months in, I started doing open mics. I only did Coles. I did Coles for like every week on Wednesday for like 4 months in a row. Did no other open mics. Then didn't do open mics for a year. And then May 2018, I started doing it like every day.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, tell me, how has that changed your comedy? Just like doing it so consistently.
There's people who definitely have gotten a lot better than me in a shorter time period. But I mean, it's a growth. It's a weird journey. A lot of major things. It's been a defining thing of my life for the past 5.5 years. So, half of my adulthood and a sixth of my life. That's kind of wild. That's the wild part. But good and the bad, a lot of good and bad out of it. It's a lot, taking me to a lot of interesting rooms.
Mm-hmm. A lot of great people.
A lot of great people.
Love the people.
That's kind of the pro of it, right?
Love the
You go
people.
around, you meet interesting people, you talk about yourself and gas yourself up.
You started comedy pickup.
Yes, I did. I did jokes out of a truck.
Yes, you did. Tell us about that. How'd that idea come to life?
I had seen a couple of shows exist in LA, I think even before the pandemic. And then I was like, all right, so the pandemic happened. Then it was, everyone was taking it seriously those first 3 months. And then things started opening up. We started the mic back up. They closed again. And I was like, all right, I'm ready to do stuff. And I think because those protests were happening, everyone was so distracted. The city was distracted by stopping comics doing comedy out of a pickup truck. So we never got messed with. Really, we got messed with once in Detroit, and that was by security guards. And we were just because we were this apolitical thing from both sides, everywhere which way, left leaning, apolitical. We were good.
I can't remember what park it was in, but you were traveling all over the city.
Mm-hmm. We did 110 shows
Wow.
And yeah, so I guess, and then, but of those 30 or so were outside of Chicago, maybe 30 to, I think like it was 65 to 70 in Chicago, and then 30 to 40 in outside. And yeah, they were great. Some of them were pretty small, but some of them, especially that first summer, there was nothing going on. Summer 2020,
Mm-hmm.
nothing was open. You stopped by, there was a couple times we had over 100 people easily.
Yeah.
But on average, we'd get, good, and it was a fun thing. It was a weird little art project that had its moment.
Yeah. I saw a couple of them, and those were in my very early days of doing stand up, and I participated in one, and it was a really cool moment.
It was at the right moment that year, the first year especially. And then it was so cool of a way to get on the road and do like the DIY low level rock star. And I think the first summer we broke even.
And was that Ryder you were doing that
Yeah, I
with?
did it with Ryder Ollie every day. It was his truck. So yeah, we met at the day the open mic was shutting down the second time. So shutting down in June, it was open for like 3 weeks. We were like, all right, we're shutting down, and like everything has to close in 2 days. So this will be the last mic. And this guy, I remember I had seen him one other time at that point, and it's Ryder, and he just looks like, he looks like a guy who's ready to party. And so we go outside, and I see his pickup truck, and I'm like, oh shit, can't perform anymore. I asked him, Dad, I was like, hey, you want to do comedy at the back of your truck? And he's like, yeah. And then I was like, okay, well, let's try and do an open mic every night of a week for a week and just see what happens. There's this thing going on in New York City. This kid was running an open mic at 3 p.m. every day in Washington Square Park. And I went to New York because there was just not shit happening. So I think on the 4th of July, I went there and I did like some indie rooftop shows that were like, so New York was doing like underground shit already because New York was a little more shut down. So I went to New York, did these like rooftop shows. They did these Washington Square Park open mics. And I was like, it's so fucking, I'm just like, it's cool. It's the only comedy going on. And then I came back and I was like, all right, let's do it out of a truck.
So cool.
And then, yeah, there's nothing going on. So like, I was like, oh, if we get like a dozen people, we'll be lucky. I remember we have no idea how big it'll be. Maybe no comic wants to do comedy right now. But yeah, it was like 30 people the first week, and then like 40 people would stay and watch. And then like 2-3 weeks in, it was like, oh wow, we're gonna get 40 people stopping and watching every time. And you can't have it be an open mic anymore because these comics are so bad that you can't. And this isn't like a bar where you can just have them be out there and really vulgar. It's a park where there's
Right.
kids playing.
So there was also an underground show you did. Was it called the Comedy Speakeasy?
I did a show with a man running the whole camera situation. Cam, the
Cam
cameraman.
the Cam Man.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It was at a place we can't talk about.
Yes.
They wrote a very cool place we're not allowed to talk about.
Well, I think we can mention it, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
book club.
Yeah,
Shout
it was
out to
super
book
cool.
club.
Yeah, it was a little speakeasy thing going down. But I was not the guy to run that show at that time. So that was a cool program. It was a cool club. Book club is a cool venue, man.
Very
A
cool.
lot of cool stuff going down.
420 friendly.
Very 420 friendly. It was a 420 friendly show.
If you're into
I gave
those
out free
things.
drinks pretty much every time. And then
Yes,
you came through.
yes.
You were the biggest supporter of that show. Yeah, that was a good moment. But yeah, it was hard. It's hard running shows.
Mhm.
So more power to the showrunners. I don't know if I'm at that stage of my life anymore, at least for the time being.
But, that was a very cool show for me personally because I got to see so much live comedy. And it was one of the first shows that I ever was booked on. So it was a big deal for me. And then also I met Cam, who's been a godsend in so many ways with creativity. So it was a cool connection. And that's what comedy's all about, are just connecting
Yeah, no,
these people,
it's a very cool space.
Yeah.
It felt very cool, to be in that at that time. And yeah, and then like the people who are doing those shows, they're the people I'm, still, in touch with, except Cam, who has drifted from my life. But we're reconnecting right now.
We'll
There we
drift
go.
them back in.
Exactly.
Yes, we're all always connected. That's what's so cool. Well, I love that you love Chicago because I love it too. And we're both not only comedians, we're
Yeah.
also filmmakers.
Exactly. That's what I came here. That's what you asked me to talk about, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Tell us about film school. You went to film school.
I went to film school. I went to a glorified community college. I went to school in New York, but it was $5,000 a year. I went to Brooklyn College. Mel Brooks went there, so that's got that going
Very
for it.
cool.
But it is just like a city college in the middle of Brooklyn. I lived in the middle of Brooklyn, but it was like, yeah, there was a bunch of film snobs living in Brooklyn when I was 18. And I did a lot of, PA stuff and just stuff out there at the time and interesting videography stuff and hip hop videos. But it was a cool little run. And then even back here when I first moved back here for like the first year or so. And then, I kind of figured out comedy and figured out comedy was a little less money less money up front. Worked on a handful of things, but it was mostly college project stuff. So college projects and then hip hop videos that had a lot of views for my world, my small world, but not in any real world. There's some cool videos out there that I put together that are, got 5,000 views in a week and then no one ever saw again, basically. And that was what I did from 18 to 23. And then I did stand up, or then I did improv for a year and a half, and then I did stand up until now.
Wow.
And now I'm back to trying to make it in the film lane. But I did a web series in 2017, right when I turned 25. And it was about 4 episodes. I shot 1 on one day and 3 on a second day. And I like it. It's very amateur, but I'm happy with what it is. And they all got 15,000 views, and then they went away.
But you still created it. And that's what I'm finding. Like, my long game is good. Like, it takes me a long time, but I'll get there. And like, to be able to look back on what you've done and you've created all this material and it brings you to this moment, which you're doing something so incredible.
There's things lining up. Yes, I appreciate it. I am trying to make a feature film, which is, I think, again, it'll probably be a very similar experience to making a short where, but it's very cool. And it's cool to go through it. It's cool to have help like you. So thank you for coming to the reading and helping all along. But yeah, it's one thing is stuff's a lot cheaper than it was in 2017. I'm finding so there's things lining up like that. Technology, it truly is 1/5 the cost of it, what it was 6 years ago, and 1/10 of what it was 10 years ago. So there's things like that where it's like, it really is more possible now than ever before. And I think people, just need to give their swing at the bat, right? I don't know.
Yeah. I love that so much.
Yeah, thank you for being excited and asking me on
and
all that stuff too. Because it is statistically delusional, but then it's like, you're like, come help me out. And then it's a little more likely.
Exactly.
And I think when you read it, you're like, okay, this can be real. And then when we start shooting it and see it, you can be like, okay, this might be something. And then hopefully when it's all finished, it works out.
I gotta say, it's just such an excellent story. It's really, really good. And I'm so excited to be part of it. And I can only imagine how crazy it's going to get. I mean, it was when I did a short 8-minute and 30-second video. It was crazy for 2 days.
Yeah, no, I really have to have this run and gun and do stuff different. But I think what people do I think there's a lot of, I'm very blown away because there's stuff I watch that not anything, I haven't even seen your stuff. I'd love to watch it. But I watch a lot of the things I have to prepare for this, and I'm blown away how beautiful it is. And then it's about aliens coming in and invading this suburban town. And the aliens, it looks way more pretty than anything I can ever shoot. But the aliens look dog shit. And the lead actor is some schlub who looks like me. And I don't think that, I think there's just a couple of things a movie needs. And so my story just can't have aliens because I can't accomplish aliens. And it can't have you're not getting Chris Pratt, but you can get a guy who the guy, Max Fitzpatrick, the lead. I think he is very charming, and I think he is a good surrogate of what I want to, the character is.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to crush it out the park. I'm very excited to see what he does.
Yeah, I got to hang out with him over margaritas and nachos the other day, and very cool guy,
Yeah.
very talented actor.
Yeah, I think he's going to do a good job and bring it to life. And I think you were at the table read. I think like Ryder Ollie. It's going to be just, there's a couple of things I have up my sleeve
I
where I'm
love
like,
Ryder.
I think this is going to come together pretty well. You know,
Yeah,
I think,
yes.
you know, I think there's a few things where I'm like, okay, if I can land the plane on this, it'll work.
It takes a community,
It
but
takes a community. It's going to take a lot of people's help.
if
for
you
sure.
can dream it, it can be done.
Exactly. I'm hoping it's all leading to this, right? And things are lining up pretty crazy with this. And you've been helpful with that as well. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you.
And there's
My
a
pleasure.
couple other things I need to figure out too. But yeah, no, what I hope is it's just like a funny thing that you can laugh at. Hope to make something like that. So something lighthearted. We'll see. We'll see if I succeed. It's weird talking about it seriously when it's like, it's a thing where it's like, you know, there's people getting hit in the balls as some of the jokes. So,
But it's lighthearted with heart.
well, thank you. Yeah, exactly.
You know, I
Exactly.
truly
It's a story.
believe that. And especially because we've talked about this, I'm a bit of a Chicago snob.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
You know, I can't help myself, but there's a little bit of that in the store.
Yeah. I was like, I
storyline.
got to keep the mini golf. We're going to definitely shoot at the mini golf spot because of that. Bunny Hutch, we're going.
I love the Bunny Hutch
I love mini
reference.
golf.
Oh my gosh. One more thing.
Yeah.
What is your ultimate goal? Your pie in the sky, your ultimate dream? Leave us on that.
I'll tell you what, with this movie. Well, I got two goals. I got a pie in the sky dream for stand up, and that's selling out the Chicago theater. Wouldn't that be crazy? That's like
Yes.
my insane, like, it's corny, but you should have it. You should have what your goal is.
Yes.
If I have that, I have to acknowledge that I've achieved my dream. Selling out the Chicago theater. The dream with this movie would, if it could somehow get into a major 4-film festival, a Sundance, a South by Southwest. I don't even want to name them because I don't want to jinx myself.
Just something,
But
we'll say.
yeah.
And I believe in you.
Thank you.
And this has been a great conversation.
Well, thank you. Cheers. I already
Cheers.
drank my beer.
Well,
Thank you, Cam. Thank you,
Cam.
Kelly.
well, it's folks. It was just such a pleasure interviewing Donovan. But that's it for Coming Up Comic. Till next time, cheers.